Do you want to win more matches? Then don't use the warm-up, the 5-minute warm-up that you have with your opponent to physically warm up. To my mind, you should be doing that before you come on the court. The 5 or 10 minutes, however long you have with your opponent, that's the time to scout your opponent and formulate a game plan. Now, of course, there's social media. And even at lower tournaments, even prize money tournaments, and I don't know, Turkey, France, wherever, a lot of them are live streamed. So you can actually look at your opponents, and that can be in recreational tennis. But what do you do if you have absolutely zero idea what your opponent looks like, how they're playing, and what their game style is? Because yes, that still happens, that you have no chance to watch your opponent play before you actually go on the court. So back in the day when I played, the only chance, if you didn't know the person, was to watch a match in the earlier rounds, or maybe see them at practice, and you had to figure out a game plan then, or you had to do it right on the court. Yes, you could, of course, ask other players and other coaches, but there's one big issue. You might not actually have the same weapons or tools that the player had that gives you the information. So, for instance, somebody told me a couple of times, well, her return is not that great. Let you in on a secret. Your serve was the bomb. Mine wasn't. So that was not really helpful advice for me. So potentially you could get very basic information like, is she a right-hander, left-hander? Do they like to play serve and volley? If it's doubles, nobody ever plays serve and volley in singles anymore. Those are the things that you might get from other people. But to formulate a very specific game plan, if you don't have the exact same game style as the person that you're getting the information from, take it with a grain of salt. Or you even get to the analytical part of the warm-up, the scouting session, you want to get your physical warm-up off the court before you get on the court. So if you can, warm up with a partner, a teammate. If you can't find another person to hit with, use the backboard or the ball machine. Anything to break a sweat and already be on the court and get some strokes in, better than nothing. Or if all else fails, go to the parking lot and do dynamic warm-up. First things first, is your opponent a righty or a lefty? And you'll laugh, but I've coached players who literally for the first half of the set played into the strengths, the forehand of a lefty, because they didn't figure out that they're playing a lefty. So what I'm doing in the warm-up, because I don't have to rely on it anymore to get physically warmed up, I'm actually kind of gut checking my opponent. And I am deliberately going to hit certain balls with variations that check if they can or cannot do what I'm trying to figure out. So first thing I'm checking is, so if I see an extreme grip on the forehand, and of course also regular backhand, I will hit some slices short because it's difficult to get under the ball with an extreme grip, and a lot of two-handers don't necessarily have a very good slice. But even if the two-hander does change into a continental grip and hits a slice, still no reason to panic. I still know that that slice most likely is less aggressive than their regular backhand. So I immediately register if I have to play defense, I'm probably going to get the ball lower to their backhand. And you'll notice that I deliberately hit some higher, heavier balls because I want to check, do they move back and let the ball drop, which gives me time either on defense to move forward into a better defensive position, or if it's a regular rally ball that I used to hit a higher ball with, that's the opportunity for me to gain a more aggressive court position. The option that they're trying to take the ball on the rise, and then of course I'm seeing how good they are at that. And then there's of course the next option when you see this face, and then not even attempting to adjust at all. That gives me huge information, and I don't care if you're having success with higher, loopier balls, outright moon balls, I don't care. That's on them. So yeah, in the warm-up, I will check that out. If they're giving me that face, I know what I'm gonna do. Next thing I'm checking is how do they react to wider balls. Now, I'm not an advocate to like slapping winners and basically not giving them any rhythm. I think that's also not what you want to do. But you can absolutely, after you went through the middle 2, 3, 4 times, spread the ball a little wider. Does your opponent run for them? How do they run for them? Two-hander? Will they try to really get behind the ball, hit a two-hander, more aggressive, or are they getting into a slice? On a wider ball to the forehand, open stance, do they get a knot in their legs and try to hit a closed stance, which is probably not the appropriate response, which might give me a lower percentage return? Those are all things that I can check out. You're gathering all the information about what the play style of your opponent is. Now you need to know the moves to exploit that. And that is where the Fuzzy Yellow Balls app comes in. And what you do is you just get into the app, you scroll until you find the new rules of singles 2023, click on them. And it gives you all the material that you need to now exploit what your opponents just told you they don't like. So I'll pop the link down in the description, Fuzzy Yellow Balls app, the new rules of singles 2023. Of course, you can tell a lot also by hitting through the middle. Especially when things are getting a little higher in the ratings, a lot of people are trying to find their forehand a little bit more out of the middle. So what does that tell me? It doesn't tell me that I should get scared because they have a big forehand. What it does tell me is that I can actually exploit that. A couple of moves that I have when somebody really favors their forehand that way, I can serve out wide if they're right-hander on the deuce court, and I deliberately go into their strengths. Or the shot that they favor. It doesn't necessarily mean that their backhand is outright worse. But I go into their strengths and that opens up the backhand. Or of course, I'm starting to serve right away to their backhand and just really, really hammer their backhand so that they're forced to move around ever wider balls to find their forehand. Check at the net. How many players do you know that literally just warm up at the net because it's something that's done? So they're hitting like 1 or 2 volleys and then okay, I'm done. And then they go back. Guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna bring them in. And the other thing that you can pretty much guarantee is when you bring them in, their volleys are not that great. So you don't have to hit high risk passing shot. Make them hit that volley. I have to admit it, I have coached players who basically didn't even take overheads because they didn't like them.
I never took overheads.
Yeah.
Ever.
So that's a gimme right there. If they do take overheads, you want to check out how they're moving back under a deeper overhead. And yes, you can push them off the net a little bit. Now, if they're just backpedaling, the drop doesn't have to be perfect because they're not going to be very quick. What grip do they have again? If they have the frying pan grip, that's really tough to control. By the way, if it's as sunny as this, in the winter you're playing outside, the sun is that low, any high ball, doesn't matter what the quality is pretty much, is going to be a really good idea when somebody's attacking. So once you checked all these little things, and again, it just has to be 2, 3 shots of the particular skill that you want to check, you're still giving them a warm-up, so you don't have to worry about that, but you have now all the information you need to formulate your own game plan. And of course, you have to match their weaknesses with what you can do. Now, when they're returning, which that's a little tougher to read, I do feel, because a lot of players are just kind of blasting the ball back over and then concentrate more on their own serve. But do they see that when you're hitting second serves, that it might be a little shorter? If it's a little shorter, do they move up? So I'm trying, especially in the first couple of service games that I'm having, to give them a lot of first serves by modifying my serve between a first and a second serve. So I'm not starting out hitting bombs. So immediately you can check what kind of grip they have. So if they have the frying pan grip, extreme angles will be almost impossible. Same on the outside with a frying pan grip, it's impossible to hit a kick serve. So again, I can slide in a little bit. And a lot of people, and of course that's something that you have to figure out immediately in their first serve game is, yeah, the frying pan grip serve is potentially pretty powerful on the first serve, but it's not a high percentage serve. So the second serve, a lot of times, is something like this, and that's your cue to move up. If you like this video and you want more, and you also want exclusive content, check out my Patreon membership platform. You get membership discounts, you get more videos, exclusive content, and if you level up to the Grand Slam level, you'll join us for the monthly live coaching call. So check out my Patreon membership platform.